What's up, legends, and welcome back to my Winter of Champions tournament gameplay commentary series, whatever you would like to call it. In today's video, we're going to be looking at my round 2 match versus Chickcharnee, and hopefully you've already watched the round 1 video, so I don't really have to go, or I should say I don't really want to explain necessarily how everything works, so I would recommend going and watching that first. I put some links in the description of that video that will give you more insight to how the tournament process actually works, and I think after saying that, I'll probably link them down below as well, so you can go check those out if you would like more information on how this tournament Conquest format actually works. We're going to get right into the pick ban phase because I'm assuming this video is going to be a little while. So I won the leader die roll again. I was pretty lucky. I think I rolled an 81 to my opponent's 26, which is a little bit less of a gap between the last episode where I rolled a 100 on a D100 and my opponent I think rolled an 18. So I chose to be leader just to get those strong picks early, and with the first overall pick, I picked Medusa. I'm going to put my character cards to the left of my screen, which isn't on right now because I look like an absolute gremlin. And if you're wondering why I'm not showing the actual footage of the pick ban phase from the match, it's because I forgot to hit record. So I'm going to have to narrate over this part. I picked Medusa for a couple of reasons. Usually the first picks go Medusa, Sherlock in some order just because those are seen as two of the strongest fighters. I picked the Medusa end of this split because I think I'm more comfortable playing her. I think a lot of people ban Sherlock, and so Medusa's getting some more play this tournament, especially with some of the scary Volume 2 fighters. And I wanted my opponent to pick Sherlock for a reason we'll go into a little bit later. So my opponent, he did his research, and he saw that Yanenga is one of my most played fighters, so he picked her first to prevent me from picking her. I think this is a really good strategy by him. Something I was infamous for in the last tournament, Summer of Legends, was I would steal people's preferred picks. So I'm kind of getting a taste of my own medicine here. I think Yanenga is probably one of the strongest fighters in the game. She's definitely on the big 3 tier level. The problem is there are a couple of heroes, a handful even, that do pretty good against her. I'd say Bruce Lee, Bloody Mary, Achilles, Sinbad, maybe Robin Hood, Little Red. There's just like a handful of heroes that all do pretty well against her. So I think the issue with picking her first for either side is that your opponent has enough options to just counter her the rest of the way. So you just have to rely on being skilled with her and winning those uphill matchups for you, which isn't even that uphill because Yanenga is just really, really good. So I wanted to pick someone that was good against Yanenga, but also like decently strong into a bunch of other heroes. So I picked Achilles because I felt decently confident in this matchup that if I have like map pick and I'm going first, I can be very aggressive, kill all the archers, get Pat dead ASAP as possible, and then just go ham on Yanenga with the extra card draw, which she has none of, and the extra +2 to all of my attacks. My opponent responds to this by just going with another strength pick in Sherlock Holmes, which is very respectable because I guess he wouldn't want to leave Sherlock on the board for me to take third potentially. And in my scouting report of him, Sherlock was probably the big 3 member of choice for him to take. And now I think I want to just continue my trend of trying to counter Yanenga. So I'm going to go with Sinbad, who has one of the best win rates against her. And right now my plan is to just leave Yanenga up, ban one of his other 2 picks, and just go ham on Yanenga and try to deny her from any wins during this match. My opponent picks Sun Wukong. He played in the Release Rumble, Battle of Legends Volume 2, just like I did, except we never met. So he was decently familiar with the Volume 2 fighters, and looking at this lineup, Medusa is probably the only hero of mine that will give Wukong problems. Achilles and Sinbad, they're definitely winnable for me, but both of them are a little tough against Wukong because no range means that I'm going to have to go up and hit Wukong, but I'm going to have to go through his clones first. And both Sinbad and Achilles have a lot of value-based attacks that don't really matter into Bewilderment or Golden Chainmail or even Tortoise Form. But they do have the card draw to be able to aggro Wukong. But like I said, it's definitely winnable, just uphill. So those were the picks. And now for the bans. So I'm looking at my opponent's lineup. I'm keeping up Yanenga here because I think all three of my heroes can do decently well. And the choice between Sherlock and Wukong. I'm thinking my opponent is going to ban Medusa because she's the only one that will really give Wukong any problems. And I think both Sinbad and Achilles can do well against Sherlock because they have the card draw and aggressive pressure to maybe force him on the back foot and run him out of blocks. So I am going to ban Sun Wukong pretty confidently here. And just like I thought, my opponent was going to ban Medusa. So the heroes on both sides, I have Sinbad and Achilles versus Yanenga and Sherlock, which is a little scary when Yanenga and Sherlock are probably two of the top 4 heroes in the game right now, but I think I'm fine with my matchups into her, and both Sinbad and Achilles can beat Sherlock if it comes down to it, but I am, with this lineup, I'm more so trying to deny Yanenga from wins and accepting that if Sherlock plays, he will probably get a win there. But you never know because sometimes people pick Sherlock just because he's a strength pick and they don't want their opponents to get him. But they might not necessarily even be that good at Sherlock. So sometimes forcing people to play as Sherlock actually because he just gets banned so much can be maybe wise if you don't think they're necessarily that good with him. But you could get heavily punished if they are. So with the character picks out of the way, let's go into the initial map bans. Okay, these are all the maps available currently, obviously, I guess. So I am leader, so I ban a map first. I want to make this match as difficult as possible for Yanenga, since she's the one that I'm kind of targeting here. So what maps what maps is Yanenga good at? Well, anything that favors range probably helps her a lot. Yukon and Sherwood are the two prime suspects there, especially since they both have a middle area that features some tri-zone spaces for Jaws of the Beast to trigger. Raptor Paddock, probably fine playing against Yanenga because you can just hang in the sides, the mono zone spaces that will make her have to come right next to you to attack you with. So I'm leaving that up. These maps, I don't even know, man. I don't think I'd ever ban a Buffy map. Probably Marmorial is another good option because it has all those spaces. This is probably a good Yanenga map, and it's pretty big, so especially as Achilles, I'd have to boost to hit her a lot. Hero Rot is small enough where I can leave it up. And so that leaves Soho, Sarpedon, Baskerville, and Hanging Gardens. Soho might be tricky because she can body block her archers or put the archers in front to make me hit them before Yanenga. But the zonage, I think, is fine for me. There's a lot of weird zoning places that might make the archer positioning a little difficult. And there's only one tri-zone space on this whole map, so I'm leaving this up too. So it's this bottom row. This is actually Sarpedon, one of the best anti-ranged maps in the game. Because of these hard zone cutoffs on the side. So it's between Baskerville and Hanging Gardens. And I know my opponent, like me, likes banning Baskerville. So I was going to leave it up, probably assuming that my opponent was going to ban it. So I banned Hanging Gardens, which I think is one of Yanenga's best maps. And my opponent did exactly what I thought he was going to do, where he banned Baskerville Manor, which is a good choice when you just want to play a straight up game. You don't really want to focus on you don't want to give your opponent a chance to just out gimmick you with the stupid secret passages. Yeah, there are some other maps with gimmicks like Hero Rot and Raptor Paddock, but I don't think they affect the game as much as the secret passages on Baskerville do. So Baskerville is almost just essentially auto banned because one of the players was probably going to ban it. But so I banned Hanging Gardens and my opponent banned Baskerville. And let's get into the games. Okay, so welcome to game 1. I picked Sinbad in the blind pick for the first game because I wanted to guarantee that he would get matched into Yanenga eventually. If Chickcharnee picks Yanenga first, obviously that's the matchup, which is happening right now. But if he picks Sherlock first and I lose with Sinbad, then game 2, Sinbad will be matched up with Yanenga, and hopefully this is the favorable outcome for me, and then I'll have to beat Yanenga with Achilles in game 3. But the blind pick worked out for me because I got the matchup I wanted when I picked Sinbad. So we're looking at the game right now. My opponent had map and position choice. He actually had me going first on Sarpedon, which I think worked out in my favor because Sinbad wants to be aggressive. So being able to go first means he can potentially get some attacks in turn 1 and even get some card advantage or hand advantage early. I'm going to pause it before we do the mulligan because we're going to do a nice hand check about why I am ditching my hand, or I should say, let's analyze what I should do here. So I have Momentous Shift, Toil and Danger, which are, I guess, decent block cards. Toil and Danger especially because after combat I can move Sinbad up to 3 spaces, which means on defense against some ranged attacks, I can move him into position to potentially double attack on my turn. Really strong, especially with 4 copies. That's nice to have. 2 feints early, though, isn't necessarily required because I want to feint either the Archer revives or the double attacks, and he's probably not going to play too many revives at the beginning, especially when he has both, and he might hang on to the double attacks for like a combo turn later. Momentous Shift, I guess, would be the other defensive option with Toil and Danger if I don't want to use my feints early, and I got the Draw a Card Voyage. So I'm mulliganing my hand for maybe because I want the feints later in the game, and ideally I want some draw in either like a Porter attack, even a regroup, I guess, and just maybe some more voyages. So that's the I guess the logic behind my thinking here. Especially in this matchup, I want to be really aggressive, and having some better attacks and better draw early will help me get a sizable lead in the game. So my opponent is going to mulligan as well, so he probably wasn't too happy with what he had. I think this works out in my favor because if he kept, that meant he probably would have had some decent defensive options at least. And the fact that he's mulliganing too means maybe he'll draw a bad hand and I can get even lucky earlier because I think my deck is a little bit more consistent than his. I think that's solely due to draw power because Yanenga has a bunch of 3-copy cards, which is really nice. So the reason why Sinbad is a little bit more consistent than Yanenga is because of the draw, and he can dig through his deck faster and usually have multiple options available and find his key cards a little bit faster than Yanenga can by just double maneuvering. So this hand, I got the same defensive options with the shift and the danger, but I have a Voyage, which is the discard Voyage, which is very powerful to have because Yanenga can't cancel the discard, so it's guaranteed to go through. I have a Commanding Impact and Riches Beyond Compare for draw, although I don't think I'm going to ever use Riches Beyond Compare because it's just too many cards, and I think that scheme and the regroup are going to be my discard fodder for cards like Pin the Prey or Shield Formation, just because I like draw, but usually I won't need that much draw. So I put the Porter just at the front of the zone so that he could potentially be a little bit more useful early in the game. My opponent positioned 1 Archer up front, which I think helped me because Sinbad is very slow at the beginning of the game. He can only move 2 spaces, and the maximum amount he can boost is up to 4 with the single copy of Commanding Impact, which has a boost value of 2. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and be next to Yanenga with the boost of Commanding Impact on my first turn if he positioned the archers behind him up in this like the tri-zone space area where his other archer is. So I think I'm going to maneuver first. I'm going to really think about this because the exploit is another solid defensive option because it'll block almost anything Yanenga can throw out. She just has a relentless assault of 3s, and it'll draw a card, so I won't lose a card after playing that. So I'm eyeing that Voyage, and I think the decision here is between using the Voyage or the Commanding Impact to kill the Archer, because I want it to die, and hopefully he'll just take the Voyage undefended, because I guess I have a lot of things that could kill it, but maybe not this early in the game. Thinking like a Shift or the Commanding Impact would be the guaranteed kills, but the Voyage is, unless it was the damage Voyage, which I probably wouldn't use on an Archer, that would do it too. And I'm going to leave the Porter out of the purple zone because I want to preserve him until I can see his draw cards. And I don't want Yenenga to get some attacks on because I don't want to waste these like semi-decent block cards. Probably would throw a Shift out on the Porter for defense here, but I just want to have Sinbad be attacked so I can use Toil and Danger. I'm going to go with the Voyage, the discard Voyage, to get something out of his hand. And he does defend with Pin the Prey. So the Archer only takes 1 damage, which I guess a little unfortunate. But I'll discard a card, which will be the scheme that I don't need. And he discards 1 random card. And I think I would rather him not discard Pin the Prey. I think this is like relatively weak. So it's good that he played like a bad card so that in theory the rest of his hand is good. Getting a Voyage right off the bat makes me a move 3, which will be great in this matchup since Yenenga is only a move 2. So the speed and getting that ramped up ASAP as possible will be really helpful for me in this matchup. One of the things that makes Sinbad so good here is that when you know that none of your Voyages are going to be fainted, you can play a lot more confidently and aggressively, especially with the Heal Voyage, the Damage Voyage, and Voyage Home, and even the Discard Voyage, because all those are things that you don't want to get canceled, and when you know they're not going to get canceled, you can be pretty confident with your attacks. So the random discard discarded a 1 with the land, which is really good because Yenenga is a tank. She can distribute damage that she takes to archers in her zone. That's her ability. And that happens whenever she takes damage, either from like auto damage or from schemes or from combat. So I want to take out the archers early so that I can just beat down on Yenenga. And 1 with the land is a great recovery tool if I can't kill the archers. And let's say she like body blocks. Let's say she put Yenenga here and put both of the archers right here so that I couldn't get around to Yenenga. Or the archers, I should say, and I had to go through Yenenga. 1 with the land would be a great tool there because she could just put the 1 damage on each of the archers and then heal it back for just massive, massive value. And getting 1 of those out of the way means that she has less overall health to work with because this essentially heals 3 at its best. You can see me intently focusing. I'm writing down the the card distribution for Yenenga's deck on the fly so that I can track her deck and look at her options. I'm very stern looking and serious. I got my competitive face on. Go Huskies. So he's going to attack me. This is where I use Toil and Danger to just move right up to Yenenga, ideally, I think, and probably throw out an Exploit or a Commanding Impact. So it's the double attack. So I block all 3, but then get to move up to 3. Yep, I'm going to move right there. I think controlling the bridges is really important for me as Sinbad because I can basically force Yenenga into like half of the map, especially when she's starting on the bridge. This is a lot smaller than over here, and it has I guess I was going to say a zone cutoff for range fighters, but I don't think I want to go back here because I want to stay on the bridge, not this side of the map. So I'm going to throw the Exploit out and block the second 3, which is a little bit of a... Did you just pause? Okay, it froze for a second. It's a little bit of like an overkill because it's only 3 damage that I'm blocking. But I wanted to cycle through my deck, and the card draw from Exploit helps me dig faster and find more options. So I think here I want to save the commanding impact, and I'm going to throw out a regroup and pressure the hand sizes, because that will put me at 3 after combat, or 4 if he doesn't defend, which he didn't. He didn't defend, so he takes 1, and I get 2 cards. So I was going to be 1 card ahead of him either way after this combat, and this I guess the extra 2 cards will help me find options for a second attack. He's going to take it. If he still had that one with the land, he probably would have just distributed the damage to an archer. But this was huge for me because both of those cards were voyages, and I think this was the look at your opponent's hand voyage and the heal voyage. So I don't need the heal voyage yet because I'm still at full health. So the hand voyage will be really good because especially with only 1 black card in hand, I'll know what options he has and whether or not I want to block if he counterattacks me. I think the worst thing I could see here would be like 2 double attacks, because then I would be really punished if he played both of those. But that would put him down to 1 card and he would still be next to me. So probably not the end of the world, especially with the heal voyage in hand, because I know I can take some hits. So he didn't block this, so he took 3 damage, distributed 1 to each archer, killing the one at 1, putting the one at 2 at 1 health, and then Yanenga took a damage. And then I get to look at his hand, and I'm actually very relieved here because the only thing he could attack me with is a surprise volley, which would only be 3. If I had a feint in hand, I would definitely feint that if he attacked me, but I know that the only way he could potentially combo me is if he maneuvered, played Master of the Hunt, and then attacked me with surprise volley and whatever else he drew, which I'm probably fine here, just taking the first attack if he's going to attack me twice. My internet blips, so of course everything just disappears off the screen. So the other cards in his hand that I didn't mention was 1 with the land, so he actually started with both probably. Which is interesting why he chose to kill off the archer instead of just taking another damage on Yanenga and then healing for 3. That would have been really good, especially since he had the other one forcibly discarded. But I'm looking really good here. I'm 9 cards into my deck, and I already have seen 3 voyages, which is pretty lucky. So my move value is at 4. The voyages are starting to deal 4 damage. I got another one in hand, and I know he doesn't have any black cards. So I'm looking pretty good here. The commanding impact could even be an undefended 5 if I wanted to do that too. So he's attacking me. I know what it is. So I think I'm just fine taking it since I know it's going to be 3, and I can save the shift for when there's a little bit more doubt into what he's going to attack me with. I think another reason for me to not block here is just in case the next couple of draws for me are a little sus. I don't want to use the last block card, especially when I know it's not going to be something huge like a Jaws of the Beast or something. But I think another good thing about this matchup is that none of Yanenga's attacks are really huge in value. It's just a lot of 3s. Surprise volley, the double attack, stallion. I guess the things you have to worry about are like shift and skirmish, and I guess point blank, that's technically a 4, but she's probably going to use that on defense if she drew it early in the game, because that will not really be that useful late in the game, and I have a bunch of movement effects on my block cards if she's attacking with it that will cancel the adjacency, if you will. So he's going to revive the archer back instead of gaining an action, which is definitely the right move considering that he's already down a 1 with the land. He needs as much health as possible, especially with my voyages ramping up this quickly. And the action I don't really think would be that useful, especially when he doesn't have any other attacks in his hand. So he's on his second action. He's probably going to want to play Master of the Hunt and double maneuver, I think. Or even just play 1 with the land for the 2 healing, since one of the archers at 1 health, because he needs cards. And if he maneuvers here, he might not draw something to block with. And So he's going to play Master of the Hunt. And I think if I was him, I would maneuver first to see what I get and then decide whether or not to play one with the land. So this is a little tricky because I think he's deciding whether or not to use the 1 health archer as a meat shield to force me to attack it, or if he's trying to get more value out of the other one with the land that's in his hand. So he's going to double maneuver here and probably try to block Sinbad off from being able to hit Yanenga. But my move is 4 because I have 2 voyages out. So I can move adjacent to him right here in that red space. I can go basically almost anywhere on this side of the map from the position I'm in right now. So he has to use his archers pretty carefully and prevent me from hitting Yanenga. Although he drew 2 cards, Yanenga has a lot of versatile cards. She has 6 attacks and 4 schemes, and there are 4 archer-specific cards, which leaves 16 versatiles or blues that Yanenga can use to block with. So the odds that she drew something to block with on that double maneuver, probably pretty strong. But I could press the aggression here because if she only drew 1, she's probably going to have to use whatever she drew. Another thing is, so he's leaving me open to attack Yanenga. And he's leaving this 2 health archer outside of her zone. So maybe a divide and conquer here. This is when I move the porter over to this bridge, effectively like locking Yanenga and all of her fighters on this side of the board. This bridge is really strong because it's like a 1 path wide corridor. And especially like Muldoon, when he traps it, he can be a real menace. So there's some clever things you can do with body blocking the bridges on this map and kind of corralling your opponent onto one side or the other. I'm going to throw down the heal voyage just because I took that hit. May as well just go back up to 14, especially because this is a 4. So I guess a divide and conquer would block all of it. But it'll be I'm kind of just like prodding a little bit to see what options he even drew, and he's taking it, so he probably didn't draw a divide and conquer or anything like that. He probably has some Yanenga specific options, or he just thought the archer wasn't worth it. But that's pretty huge for me, because with shield formation I can discard a card to prevent the archer from coming back, and I think I almost always do that in this matchup, especially with the amount of like dud cards I have that I like don't need to rely on for draw. I can just pitch the scheme or a regroup. And he only has 2 surprise volleys left. I have all 3 of my feints, so he can at most, I will say, get 2 archers back. And he only has 1 copy of one with the land left. So his health total is looking not as massive as it could be for Yanenga, I will say. So he's probably not going to press the aggression here, because the hand counts are even, but my draw power is just so much better than his. So I'm expecting him to probably double maneuver here and kind of grow his hand back up to eventually form some sort of counter attack on me. And I'm looking to just maneuver attack as much as possible, use my card draw cards to not go down in hand size, and just keep the hand advantage over him as much as I can. Really thinking about what to do here, because it's probably a tough decision. You have to decide between putting pressure back on me and playing at a low hand count, which can be really risky, especially since I can draw a lot, or just double maneuvering, being very passive and playing the more defensive option. He is kind of backed into a corner, so forming a counterattack might be good here, especially because my hand size is low. He might kind of force me to retreat a little bit, but then again, that is risky with his low hand count himself, and he doesn't have really any good recovery options. Because in terms of card draw, none of Yanenga's card effects draw cards except for one with the land, but because one with the land only draws one card, it's effectively the same thing as maneuvering. So at max, she can only ever draw 2 cards per turn unless she gets some help from her opponent. So I'm realizing here I may have misplayed a little bit because the archer was in this trizone space and I ended here instead of here, which means that if he attacks me with a Jaws of the land right now, it'll be a 6 swing and I can only block with a 3. But if he's using Jaws as an attack in this matchup, I think I'm relatively happy because that will be probably a little bit better on defense, especially late in the game if he can force me to attack him from a tri-zone space and get that big 6 on defense. But it looks like he's backing off here and actually not going to attack. He's probably wrestling with what to do because he has just a couple of options in his hand. Nope, he's doing the hokey pokey. He's going back in. Nope, he's going back out.
That's the thing about Sinbad. He's got such good mobility.
Sinbad, especially when he gets up and running. My move value is 5 right now, so I can just move almost anywhere I want. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could basically reach like the far edges of this area. Well, I guess I can't reach the far edges, but I can almost reach them, and I just need like one more voyage, and I can basically move anywhere from the center of the map. And the porter can move that too, because your ability also applies to him. He's not completely useless. He's a good meat shield. I almost want my opponent to attack the porter because that's just like damage that Sinbad isn't taking. Although the porter will be useful later in the game, just because being a solo hero against someone with multiple sidekicks can be a real pain. So I want to keep him around as long as possible. But he is doing his job just sitting here and keeping Yanenga kind of corralled into this area of the map. So he settles for a double maneuver there. I draw another voyage, and it's actually the draw voyage, which is exactly what I want because I want to keep pressuring him and I want to keep my hand size up. And I know it's not going to get canceled, so I will be attacking for 5 and drawing a card, essentially a commanding impact. So I'm going to go around and attack her actual hero, and I'm going to move the porter, I think, over to this side of the bridge, just because this will be an easier escape. And I guess if she wants to maneuver boost out of this side, I guess that's fine with me. She's wasting a card boosting. So I'm kind of shifting to keep the pressure on in a certain area and not let an easy escape happen. So I'm attacking with a 5 right now because it's 2 plus 3, and I will be drawing a card. This is really good for me. I think the best thing she could defend with here would either be a shield formation to make me discard a card, or a Jaws that would be a 4 and have her only take 1 damage. So it's going to be a stallion charge. So mine is a 5, so she'll take 2 damage, and then she can move. This is a little scary because she could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if she wanted, and then be able to escape into the blue forest. But she might want to try to deal damage to me. She could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and she couldn't land on the porter. So I guess lucky positioning by me here. I didn't specifically play around this, but she can't hit both of my characters. So Sinbad will take a damage. And I think she did not distribute anything to her last remaining archer. So I will draw a card, and it will be her turn. So I'm a little worried for the porter here, but after I just drew by Fortune and Fate, which is normally a little bit of a sus card because it just draws a lot. In this matchup, you actually want to draw a lot. So if he attacks the porter here, I think I will be defending with those shifts so that I can get the draw off from by Fortune and Fate. Yeah, we were just pointing out how I drew 4 voyages in my top 12 cards, which is just insane luck. Like, everything seems to be going my way this game, which I guess happens with Sinbad because you can draw a lot, you see a lot of your deck each game, and this is why I wanted this matchup, because the draw and the lack of cancels on Yanenga's end. So he's going to play that one with a land we knew he had. So the archer will heal 1. He'll go back up to 12. And now I am just focused on those last 2 surprise volleys as his other, I guess, tank options. He has the 1 archer that remains, and then the 2 more, because I'm just assuming that I won't let him get shield formation off. So he essentially has the 12 health on Yanenga, and then 6 more health in the archer. So 18 health total to work with that I just need to beat my way through. So he's double maneuvering on his turn. Let's see if he kind of stays in that bottom right area or if he tries to make a run for it off the bridge. Although he couldn't get fully off the bridge unless he maneuvered. And I think with this current positioning, I would probably swing the porter back around to block off this end of the bridge and then swing Sinbad over here and block off this end like we saw before. So he's probably deciding whether or not he wants the archer to be more vulnerable or Yanenga. He's doing a good job keeping the archer in his zone so that he can offset damage onto him. So there's a regroup, which is really good for me because that means I can safely attack into shield formation and not worry about discarding a good card because I have a bad card to discard. And then by Fortune and Fate looks like a really good option here because that'll put me at 6 cards after combat to his 5. Hand advantage is really important to keep in Yanenga matchups because she has no way to draw quickly. So if she wants to play a big combo turn with Master of the Hunt and Surprise Volley and the double attack, she doesn't have a quick way to recover from that. I think I will avoid my previous mistake of leaving Sinbad on a try zone. I'll play around Jaws of the Beast and put him on a single space. And then, like I said, the porter will attack with By Fortune and Fate to hopefully draw lots of cards. Not so much worried about the damage here because Yanenga has a lot of 3-value block cards. So just using this solely for the cards and not in hopes of an undefended 3, which I don't think would happen. So there's the shield formation. So that regroup was a very lucky draw. Without hesitation, I select it to be pitched into the void. So he will not get an archer back. And I will draw 2 cards. So I am still a card ahead of him. I drew a Leap Away and a Toil and Danger, which are just great defensive options. Leap Away just having a huge movement effect. Not that I needed it because I'm already a move 6 hero. And Toil and Danger, or Toil and Dagger as some people call it. It's just a great block option, especially in this matchup against a ranged opponent who has a lot of low value attacks. So he's maneuvering here. He's not putting that much pressure on the porter. And based on that initial kind of Yanenga hopping over the archer, I'm probably expecting just a double maneuver here for him to go up to 6 cards, but so he's attacking the porter with the archer. So this could be a skirmish, a shift, although the archer hasn't moved. It could be a second Pin the Prey. It could be a Divide and Conquer that wouldn't trigger, or it could be a Surprise Volley. The skirmish would be scary because it would put the porter down at 2. The shift, Pin the Prey, and the Divide and Conquer aren't really that big of threats. They would only do 3, 1, or 2 damage, I think, respectively. And a Surprise Volley would be really good here because I probably wouldn't feint something from the archer with the porter at full health. So I'm taking it. It is a Divide and Conquer, which is good because the archer is still in Yanenga's zone. So it's just 2 damage instead of 4. So on my turn, drew another regroup, so that's good to pitch into shield formation or Pin the Prey. I don't really have too many good options in my hand for attacking right now. Maybe Shift or Commanding Impact. Commanding Impact would draw a card. Shift would just be a nice 5-value attack. I'm not really thinking about attacking with anything on the bottom row, I think. And if I moved in with Sinbad, he could defend with Jaws of the Beast. And if I moved the Porter to attack the Archer, I could attack with a Shift, which I think is probably the best option, because I think the only thing that would save the Archer would be a Skirmish. And if he's playing that on defense for the Archer, I guess I'm fine with that. He'll only take 1 damage if that happens, but he doesn't have anyone with the lands to heal it back. And a Pin the Prey I'm not really scared of right here because I have a regroup to ditch. He could defend with a blank Shift, but the Archer would still die. And same thing with Divide and Conquer. So the only thing that saves this Archer here is a Skirmish, and he only has 2 of those in the deck, I believe. I think I want to save Commanding Impact for when I have a lower hand and actually need the draw. I think his headphones just died. That's unfortunate. I hate when things like malfunction mid-game. I was playing Zero Skater on stream like 2 weeks ago, and my mouse died mid-game, and that is the sole reason why I lost that game. You know, you hate to see it. You really do. Drinking water. Hydration is important. I'll drink some water too. You should too. Everyone drink water right now. Oh man, that is lovely stuff. Water just tastes so good sometimes and so bad some other times. He's defending, and it was the Skirmish, so the Archer will still be alive, but only at 1 health. And he did not win the combat, so he can't move any of us and mess with our positioning. So I guess that was like the worst case scenario, but it might be a win in the long run because Skirmish is a good value block that Yanenga will no longer have access to, or at least she'll only have 1 copy left in her entire deck. Might have been good in retrospect to attack with Commanding Impact there because I don't really have any other good offensive options. I got a lot of solid defense options. So maybe drawing a card there instead would perhaps give me something else to work with, like a Voyage would be nice here. But, you know, we drew 4 in the top 12, so you can't really ask for much more than that. Another Fortune and Fate would be clutch here. So if he attacks me here, I think I'm just fine because he's at a low hand count. I'm messing with the zoom. I have a sensitive mouse. I hate this. Just press E, you fooligan. All right, we're going to settle for this frame of reference. So interesting, not keeping the Archer in Yanenga's zone. That means she can't offset damage to it. So I definitely want to counterattack here if I can while she's not able to deal 1 damage. So I see a cool play here. I could defend with the regroup, the shift, or the leap away. Now I know Yanenga has a lot of 3s. So I think the only thing that could beat a defensive leap away here and stop me from getting that effect would be a shift. Jaws wouldn't work because it would only be a 4 right now. So I will play... And he flipped the wrong card. We talked about this before the game. You got to be really careful when pressing F on Vorpal because it flips the thing you last click. That's why I always double click to flip cards. So he plays a point blank. So my leap away wins the combat because I don't take any damage. And I can move one of the fighters in combat up to 4 spaces. And if I move either of us away, Yanenga's point blank won't be able to trigger because it says the opposing fighter. And in this combat, the opposing fighter is the Porter and not Sinbad. So I can move Yanenga 4 spaces up adjacent to Sinbad and the point blank effect will not trigger. So now this is pretty good for me because I can open up on Yanenga and hopefully attack her twice unless she plays another skirmish or another stallion charge. But I'm playing my commanding impact, so even her second skirmish wouldn't be able to move away. And I'm using the commanding impact to draw and hopefully get a better block option because, a better attack option because I don't really want to attack with any of the other cards in my hand right now. So it's a Jaws of the Beast, which is a 4, so he takes 1 damage. I think a different play I could have done was use Regroup first to bait out a defense and then play Commanding Impact, hopefully when he has no block options in his hand. But if he played a shield formation between the Toil, the Shift, and the Commanding Impact, that would have been a little bad because I would have had nothing to like chump discard. So he only has 2 cards in his hand. I probably want to keep the pressure up, but I guess it's a little questionable because I don't really have any good attack options. I could attack with a feint and stop like a point blank or a stallion charge. I could attack with the regroup and just pressure the draw. Danger and shift aren't even the best options here because they're just blank 3s, and I don't really care about like the movement effect to kite with danger because I want Yanenga to attack me here because she doesn't have any cards in her hand. So yeah, I know I'm going to attack her, but I just don't know with what because my options here aren't necessarily the best. I would love a Voyage here because that would be 6 damage and he might not even block it. So I'm going to attack with a blank shift, which I think like none of the options are good, but I think this one is bad. So he's not going to take it. So it's only a 3 because neither of us moved this turn. So I'm still pressuring the health. He's at 8. Voyages are 6. So we're getting close to the end game here. So like I said, I don't really care that I'm ending next to him, which is why I didn't play Toil because I want him to attack me because he won't really have that many ways to recover. And due to his unfortunate mishap, I guess we know that one of the cards in his hand is Surprise Volley because he accidentally flipped it over. So he potentially only has 1 card to block with, and if he attacks me, might be with the Surprise Volley. So I guess having the feint in hand is a good option for that. I hate using like knowledge like that I like wouldn't know otherwise if my opponent didn't make a mistake, but it's unfortunate, but Chickcharnee is pointing out how just not great this is for Yanenga given the positioning because she's been cornered in this area basically the entire game. So I'm playing against a ranged character a little bit weirdly because I'm staying in these purple and sand colored zones where normally a ranged character will just hang out in these 2 tri-zone spaces and be able to hit like a large portion of the center of the board. Normally against ranged characters, you want to hang out on the edges of these zones with like the hard color cutoffs, the red on this side, the green and the blue on this side, so that if the ranged character wants to hit you, they have to come up right next to you and attack. And usually that's good for you because then you can just attack them back. And it even works against people like Medusa because if Sinbad was just standing here, if Medusa just moved right next to him and attacked him, he could just stay here and she wouldn't be able to ping him at the start of her next turn. So this looks like a good map for range because of these 2 spots, but it's not because of these hard zone cutoffs at the edge of the board that you can hide in. Raptor Paddock kind of works the same way. So the archer is attacking the porter. This could be a shift, a skirmish, a divide and conquer, both the shift and that would trigger. There is someone at my door. I'm going to have to stop this. All right, that was weird. Sorry. My pineapple pizza was just delivered to my door. Completely forgot the game state. The archer is attacking the porter, I think. And I hope I listed out all the options it could have been before the doorbell rang. But I think feint is a decent idea here because the archer has a lot of effects that increase its value, just like this one, divide and conquer. So the porter doesn't take any damage. Good thing I defended because otherwise it would have died. And like I said, the porter is a little bit useful because he draws cards in this matchup, and you want cards because you can just overwhelm Yanenga with your draw. So right now, even though the hand counts are tied at 2, I still think I want to go in and pressure here because we can just use our draw power and our mobility to just beat her down. And especially she's on the back foot. She's only got 8 health, 1 archer, not even in her zone, and 2 cards in hand. So this was a huge draw for me here because this is the damage voyage. So it can't be canceled, and it does damage regardless of adjacency. So this is going to deal quite a big wallop here. I'm going to move the porter back just so it's a little bit harder for her to attack, and we're doing the shift so that she can't like easily escape, although she could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit both of my fighters with stallion charge here. I guess that's the risk we're taking, because while she could get out, I guess she'd still take some damage, and if she doesn't have it, it kind of contains her to the side of the map. So this is going to be a 6 value attack with the 4 voyages already in the discard, plus the 2 damage and after combat. We're probably looking at around 5 damage here if he blocks with a 3, because it's going to be 2 plus 4 plus 2, which is 8, and a lot of Yanenga's blocks are 3. We have the regroup in hand in case she plays the other shield formation, and we have a toil and danger in hand in case we get attacked and we're not completely screwed. Although, like I said, we're often fine getting attacked when Yanenga is at a low hand count, because that means she's not spending an action to draw. And we have a lot of tools like exploit, regroup, even the scheme, the porter card, and some other draw effects on our one of cards to easily get hand advantage over her. So he's really thinking about this, probably because he only has 1 block card in hand and he's not sure if he actually wants to use it. And he's thinking about maybe just taking it, although if he does take it, he's going to die because, like I said, this deals 8 damage and the archer isn't in Yanenga's zone. That would save him from exact lethal if he didn't defend here, but he is taking it, and that is going to be game. A little bit of a risky play by him, but he either had very limited options or he was just playing to all his outs, so I could understand the decision there. But so that's it for game 1. The next game I will be forced to play Achilles. My opponent can either stick with Yanenga or switch to Sherlock, and he will have map and position choice. So we'll after a nice seamless transition, we'll see you in that game. So welcome to game 2 of this match. I am playing the Achilles end of Achilles v Yanenga, which previously I felt pretty comfortable playing the Achilles end of this matchup, since you hit pretty big and none of your effects will get canceled. Since my opponent lost game 1, he had map and position choice, so he chose Marmorial going first, which gave me some flashbacks of my Release Rumble semifinal match versus Josh Tan, which was the same matchup, same map, except I was playing the Yanenga end. Let's do a quick hand check and look at my opening hand. I have 2 skirmishes, a wily fighting, an Achilles here, heal, and a battle frenzy. Now, this is a pretty good hand because I just have a lot of solid cards, and I have a card that kills Pat. Not kills, it damages him. It works towards the goal of killing Pat. So that's helpful for sure. But the problem is I'm probably not going to be able to play all of these cards before Pat dies, nor do I necessarily want to, because I think skirmishes are really good options late in the game as 6 value attacks or just solid block options. And I don't want to lose them when Pat dies, because when he is defeated, you randomly discard 2 cards from Achilles' hand. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to lose some of these cards. And even though they're good options, I think I'm going to mulligan away so that when I discard my hand, I'm not discarding as many solid late game options. So I end up mulliganing. We'll see what my opponent does. He's going to keep, which means he probably has solid defensive options, at least from the get-go, because Pat, I think you want to kill Pat as early as possible in this matchup and just go full aggro mode with him. So I'm certain Chickcharnee kept some solid defensive options, or maybe some archer revives even. So let's see what I draw now. Test for weakness, solid double attack. Blessed by Hermes and Wily Fighting, which are good defensive options, along with Achilles Heel. And the Under Achilles Helm, which is just great for killing off Pat, especially if Yanenga plays a double attack on Achilles early in the game. This is another solid hand, but I don't want a solid hand right now. I want Pat attacks and my bad cards, so that when I discard 2 random cards, I don't discard anything good, which I guess you could say these 4 cards are. They're, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, relatively mediocre compared to some of the other offensive firepower I have in my deck. But having the test for weakness is good early because, I could knock maybe 1 or 2 cards out of Yanenga's hand this early in the game and start using hand advantage to my benefit. So he's putting his archers in front of Yanenga, which was one of the strategies you can use for Yanenga. You can either put the archers behind Yanenga and have Yanenga tank the damage and then deal it to the archers for a sick one with the land play, or you can have the archers in front like he's doing here, which I think he's doing in case I have the Pat attacks that just like Battle Frenzy, for instance, will deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. I think he'd rather have the archers take it than Yanenga, but I guess the archers would take it either way. So interesting strategy by him. And because I'm going second, I place my sidekick down afterwards. So I'm just going to put Pat right up in his face and kind of be a menace. If he wants to attack Pat, I am perfectly fine taking hits. And if he wants to try to go for Achilles, it's going to be a little bit tricky because with Pat right here, he might open himself up to getting attacked positional-wise, I should say. So he might, it looks like he's thinking about attacking first action on his very first turn. We'll see what he does here. I do have a sneaky play, though. I can play Blessed by Hermes on defense and move Pat 1, 2, 3 to be right next to Yanenga and hopefully just scare him a little bit. And I think he's attacking with the archer, but it's probably not anything big. It's like a pin the prey, a divide and conquer, a shift that wouldn't trigger, or maybe even a skirmish. But he's using a divide and conquer that doesn't trigger, so it's just 2 damage because the archer is still in Yanenga's zone, so it's only a 2-value attack. And so my Blessed by Hermes blocks all of it, which I guess isn't good because I want Pat to take as much damage as possible, but I can go right next to Yanenga and threaten to be very, very aggressive and deal her some damage at the start of my turn if he doesn't move at all during his second action. And of course, Blessed by Hermes lets me move Achilles too. So he's probably going to want to move, or maneuver, I should say, to get Yanenga out of adjacency to Pat. And he's kind of cornered a little bit based on my initial positioning, and I think the only safe haven he potentially has is moving across this bridge or castle part, whatever you want to call it. And that still leaves him open to being pinned because I can move Achilles back here, and if he has all 3 of his fighters in a row here, I can move Pat down here, and I got a nice little Yanenga sandwich going. But she does have effects like Stallion Charge that would let her escape pins, although her archers are a lot less mobile than she is. This bridge is also a little tricky because these 2 spaces are in the same zones, but this space, there's like a hard cutoff right here where none of these zones are purple. And same thing over here where this zone isn't in this space at all. So she probably can't get the protection of both archers. And since she's only moved 2, she actually can't move right there because she started here. So she can either leave the archer there and go in this space, or she can put the archer in this space, leave Yananga right there, and now she can't divert any of the damage to the archer. So the positioning on this map, while there are a lot of spaces that are in the same zone, especially the middle green and blue area, the sides with the brown, the white, and the purple, and this pink flesh-colored zone are a little bit more tricky. So this was a card I wanted to draw, a Pat self-damage card that has a big value and it slowly chips away at Pat's health. And so I'm just going to move Pat right up to the archer and start going. And I'm going to move Achilles as far as I can over here to potentially eventually set up a pin if he doesn't vacate the premises soon. So I'm going to throw out Day of Your Doom, and there's not much the archer can do to save itself here besides playing a skirmish on defense, which would be a 4 to block the 5 if I choose to deal damage to Pat. But like a shift, a pin the prey, a divide and conquer, those would all not work. So he uses pin the prey. So the archer is going to die from the combat just because this printed value 3 hits for 2 damage over the 1. So I don't even have to choose to deal 2 damage to Pat to make this a 5. This is an interesting decision I'm making here because I decide not to because I think I want to keep Pat alive to make more use out of his actual cards, and it helps with the position game a lot because having 2 fighters on the board is a lot better to deal with the archers than just 1. Although Achilles does want to get mad as soon as possible in this matchup because it helps him just deal damage over Yananga's block cards, and it helps kill the archers a lot quicker. So this might be a mistake in the long run, but this is just a mini decision that has huge ramifications in the overarching strategy of the game plan. So with Pin the Prey, he's going to move Pat 4 spaces away, as far away as he possibly can, and then I have to discard a card. So I'm going to discard Achilles' heel just because the double attack is really good. Wily fighting helps if my opponent is adjacent to me. It deals a damage back, which is a little bit more than Achilles' heel does. And while Achilles' heel usually won't give Yananga an action in this matchup, she does have access to Momentous Shift, which would win the combat over the 4 value block that heel is. And I want to keep Helm because if the archer chooses to attack Achilles right now, I can just swap Pat back in, and now the Menace is in a much better position to attack than he is right now. The Menace, of course, being Patroclus. He's a menace. Playing at a low hand count, especially against Yananga, is a little tricky because she has 4 discard effects in Pin the Prey and Shield Formation, which is just annoying if you don't have a lot of cards in your hand like I do right now. Achilles' heel is a good block card because it's usually going to block most of the damage in this matchup, and it kind of stinks that I have to get rid of it now because that means that it won't be a good option later in the game. But like I said, it was the best option for right now, and I just want to be as aggressive as possible. So if I run into those discard effects, I guess it's not the end of the world necessarily. So I'm going to play Helm here just to get Pat back into the fray. So Pat will take the 1 damage from this combat. And both card effects have an immediately on them, but mine resolves first since I'm the defender. So now my opponent is deciding whether or not he wants to bring an archer back or gain an action. I think the archer is the correct decision in this matchup because if he wants to gain an action to either replenish his hand or just attack Pat again, I think I'm fine with that because that puts less pressure on me, or it just kills Pat for me and Achilles can begin to rampage. Although he is far away and with no cards in hand, I probably wouldn't be able to hit Yananga for a couple of turns.
That was my first attack. Yeah.
So he has 1 more action. Pat took the damage from the attack. I'm assuming my opponent is just going to maneuver here. But if he attacks Pat, I certainly would not object to that. I just took a sip of water in the video. I'm going to take a sip of water in real life. This is a reminder to hydrate. Drink with me now, friends. Oh boy, water is so good. There's nothing like cold, crisp water when you're sitting in your room talking to yourself for hours on end. So he's actually moving Yanega towards Achilles, but it might just be more so away from Pat. So his fighters are still kind of soft pinned between my fighters, because I could move down in there and move Pat up here to kind of keep the pressure on. But on this map, there's a lot of like smaller loops, so it's kind of hard to get pinned unless you're like really pinned on the bridge up here. Because leaving the archer here at this fork in the road means Yanega could go one of two different ways, so I can't really pin them here. I drew another Pat attack, which is really good because now I can just go smack the archer. And this Achilles positioning is what I'm really worried about. So I started in the player 3 spot. I can either move there, which is what I'm thinking about doing right now, which means if Yanega wanted to attack me in this white zone, she'd have to move up here, and I could defend with wily fighting to deal her a damage. But I instead choose to move Achilles away because that gets me closer to this purple zone, which I think is the best anti-range space on this map. I can just hide in there and force her to come adjacent to me from whatever direction she is, and that will let me attack her at least once during my turn. So I go for the long-term play instead of the short-term gain of wily fighting, especially because after this attack, Pat is going to be at 3 health. So even though he doesn't have a lot of cards in his hand, I would still be potentially vulnerable to a Master of the Hunt turn if he maneuvers, plays this scheme, attacks Pat, and then he could attack me. And I would discard both of the cards in my hand unless I choose to defend Pat with wily fighting, which I'm not sure I'd even do. So we're going for the long-term play of trying to get Achilles into this zone eventually. So those are the two like big decisions I've had to make that don't really seem that big, but I chose not to deal Pat damage with Day of Your Doom, and I'm trying to move Achilles away instead of going for the wily fighting damage play. So I've already killed 2 archers with Patroclus, which just goes to show that he is a menace to low health sidekicks. I took a sip out of my Cactus Cup. All hail the mighty Cactus Cup. That's my secret weapon during these matches. I drink orange juice out of the Cactus Cup. It gives me strength. It's my golden drinking horn. So I did leave myself kind of vulnerable to a ranged attack if Yanega chooses to maneuver up to this white spot, because I'm not threatening a counterattack anymore by leaving Achilles there. But I guess if he's maneuvering and then attacking, he really isn't increasing his hand size that much, and I want to... It's tricky with Yanega because she doesn't have that much card draw, and if I'm being really aggressive right now, I'm not taking advantage of that fact by just maneuvering up and matching her. I guess I don't really get card or hand advantage, I should say, until late in the game when Pat is already dead. So it's just a tricky thing that I'm not really doing a good job of right now because she has a lot more cards in hand than me. You can also see I've played 5 cards already and she's only played 3. So there is a little bit of a card advantage difference since I'm playing more cards than she is right now. So she's getting a little bit more value than me, especially right here. This is a great card to play for him right now because with only 2 cards in my hand, I'd either have to spend both blocking or only play 1 and take the 3. So I play my Wily. It doesn't trigger since I'm not adjacent, and I just take the volley, the 3 damage to Achilles, which was a big hit this early in the game, I'd say. So I drew my other Wily fighting then. I'm just going to keep moving Pat in to be aggressive, and Achilles will now get to be in this purple zone, or I think Chicago Twilight commented on my last video telling me what these were. I think this was burgundy and this was violet, because I called them both purple. This one is grape jelly in the middle, and this one is, I guess, violet. Yeah, that's a good way to call it. These were not the cards I wanted to draw. I wanted to draw probably the third Pat killing card. This would be really useful if Achilles was actually under fire. This would have been really useful last turn to have, because then Pat would have died. And the other Wily, I guess it's not the most useful thing in this matchup, since all of Yanenga's team is ranged, and I guess it's good on attack for a 5-value attack. If she doesn't play a move effect, I'll get the adjacency damage. So he's probably just going to double maneuver here. He, I don't think, wants Pat to die just yet. Interesting that he's keeping the archer out of Yanenga's zone. Might be looking to trigger the second divide and conquer then. Although actually the archer is in Pat's zone, so he could make an attack right now if he wanted to. And Achilles is pretty far away. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, yeah. So he's at least 5 spaces away, which is a boost with the double attack. He has the helm for 4 boost to move 6 spaces, and the double attack to move 5 spaces, and everything else is a 2 or a 1, being a 4 or a 3. So I'm currently holding 2 of the best Achilles boost cards in my hand, and if he's thinking about attacking Pat right now, I'm probably not going to defend, so I'm probably going to lose at least one of them. I'm drinking water in the video. I'll drink water in real life. Everyone hydrate. Oh, that's good. And killing Pat is a very interesting decision in any matchup with Achilles for both players, because figuring out whether you want Pat to die immediately, never, or somewhere in between is just a really interesting decision. So I ended up taking the attack. I'm not going to defend, so Pat is dead. And now I discard 2 random cards from my hand. There's a couple different methods of doing this. I think what we're going to do is roll a d6, assign 2 of the numbers to each card, and whatever number he rolls will be the card that I keep, just to avoid having to roll twice. We're all about efficiency here. So he's going to roll a 4, which is the middle card. So I will keep the Wily, which is, I think, the worst case scenario. Oh, we forgot to lock the board. That's on me. So I lose the double attack and the helm, which are 2 really good boost options for me, which is unfortunate, especially because this map is pretty big. So now it's making the decision of me running away to the safety of this purple zone not seem as good, because I am very far away, and now I'm just running back in for no reason. Or I guess I'm running back in to actually be able to attack them, but I guess running away didn't really do anything in the long run. So I'm having to make myself vulnerable to the archer attacking me right now, and I don't really have the best cards in terms of trying to win combats, because the archer does have access to skirmish and momentous shift, which would hit over both of these. But I could use battle harden to recycle a card, which might be worth it here. And I drew 1 of my 2 spear throws, which will be really good at just easily taking down the archers. And this, it may not look like it right now since I'm at 19 cards. My opponent is at 21 cards, but the fatigue race has already started for me. I will be drawing cards like there's no tomorrow from winning combats, and spear throw is a really great way to kill the archers and I guess lessen Yanenga's massive health pool while not winning a combat, because it's a scheme, not an attack, so I won't draw a card after playing that. The archer is attacking me with his first action. It could be the last pin the prey, which would be pretty bad. It could be a skirmish or a momentous shift, which it wouldn't be a 5, but it would still be a 3. So there's like 5 cards that deal at least 3 damage to me and 1 card that deals 1. So I think I should block here. And if he has the second pin the prey this early in the game, I guess that's the punish. But to avoid taking even more damage, I definitely should block in case it's a big value attack that Chick is trying to throw out while my hand size is low as I'm recovering from the random discards. But this is where the hand counts matter a little bit more, because he attacking me is going down to roughly the same amount of cards in hand as me, which I will quickly exceed from winning combats. So he is risking a little bit just by not double maneuvering here, but I like the aggression early when my hand count is low, because I may not have anything to block with in my hand. So I only take 1 damage from the skirmish here, which would have been really bad if I took that undefended. And the Wily doesn't go through because we are not adjacent, and he gets to move either the archer or Achilles 2 spaces after combat. And this is tricky positioning here because he has Yanenga next to a tri-zone space. So if I want to go attacker here, he could play Jaws of the Beast on defense. I think he mistakenly thinks that he can move both of his fighters with the skirmish effect, but it's only the archer. So I hope I remind him that Yanenga has to stay as player 3. So on my turn, I think I'm probably going to move Achilles into whatever zone the archer is in. If the archer stays there, I can do it from here. Or if the archer moves up 1 here, I'll have to maneuver to this sand-colored space. And I'm going to spear throw the archer to make sure that my damage actually lands on Yanenga. So the archer can still attack Achilles here because he's in the green zone. It's kind of hard to see. And a shift could trigger here, and I probably would want to block with Battle Hardened if he attacks me again. But that does mean he's going down to 2 cards. And if I play the Battle Hardened, I'll be at 2 cards, which would be pretty fine for me. So yeah, this is a good time to block. And it was the shift, so I take 3 damage, which is pretty big. I don't draw a card, and I can recycle a card with Battle Hardened. So I definitely think I want to pick up a versatile here so that I have something to block with, because I'm only going to be attacking once on this turn, I think. I'm going to be using Spear Throw. And if I picked up the double attack, for instance, that actually might be pretty useful since the archer isn't in Yanenga's zone and she only has 2 cards in her hand, but that would leave me at the mercy of whatever to block with from my maneuver. I probably should have maneuvered first to get the most information. I could have just moved up next to Yanenga, seen what I would have drawn, and then made my decision. But actually, in retrospect, I think picking up the double attack and attacking Yanenga would have been a better choice here, especially since the archer wasn't in Yanenga's zone. So this is a little bit more of like a passive defensive play by me, which I don't like in hindsight. I think I need to be much more aggressive. I drew the other Battle Hardened, which means I can start cycling them now. I'm thinking about whether I want to move here and attack on attack on my next turn, or just stay kind of in the center of the board and make her either come to me to make a move or just maneuver away. I guess landing next to her might have been a little bit dangerous because of my low hand count. But this, if she wants to attack me, she'll either have to be here, here, or here, which are all at least, or I should say less than, they are 2 or less spaces away, so I could get there with a single maneuver on my turn. If I were him, I think I would move Yanenga into the corner here so that I would have to boost to reach him, which would be especially punishing at my low hand count. But we'll see. So I think I'm not playing super great here. In hindsight, taking the double attack back instead of the safe block option should have been the move, and being as aggressive as possible I think would have been a little bit better. So he's just going to double maneuver. Is he going to stay there? And yeah, so he's not moving. He's still threatening the defensive jaws, which would kind of mess up my plans. There's my internet blipping, as always. Thanks, Thanos. And I probably am just going to maneuver and go attack. The scary thing here is a shield formation. Because of my low hand, I'll have to discard. I have less options on what to discard with, which is unfortunate. But I did draw a skirmish, which is a solid block option, and it's a 6 on attack. I don't want to use that here, though, in case he actually has the jaws. So I'm going to throw out the battle hardened. Hopefully he plays the jaws. I don't draw from the combat, and I can just start cycling both battle hardened since I know he doesn't have any cancels in his deck. So unfortunately, he does not play the jaws. He does play the shield formation, which means I'm going to end up pitching the Blessed by Hermes that I just picked up, because obviously that's a worse option right now than the Hermes, or the skirmish, I should say. And mine is a 4, so I deal 1 damage to him and draw a card from winning the combat, which I think is the worst case scenario, because that puts me closer to fatigue, only at the benefit of getting 1 damage. I ideally want to deal at least 2 or 3, since every draw from an empty deck will deal me 2 damage. So that's not really a good trade. And now suddenly we went from being almost even in deck count to now I am 3 cards ahead. Spear Throw, not the card I wanted to see here, because he doesn't have any archers back, and I guess dealing 2 damage to Yanenga right now isn't really that worth it. I want to deal more, especially when I have like a 6 value attack with the skirmish in my hand. The health being this, my health being this low, this early, is not very good, because he has cards like Point Blank and Stallion Charge that will deal me auto damage. He has 3 copies of Point Blank and 3 copies of Stallion Charge for 9 damage total. So me having 11 health means I have to be very careful about certain things. So I play a defensive skirmish here in case it's a jaws, and he plays Surprise Volley, which is not what I wanted to see, because that means he'll get an archer back. But I do have the Spear Throw to just kill it immediately. So not the end of the world, I guess, but if I had a feint, I probably would have played it here. So I'm talking about the interesting interaction these 2 cards have, because with Surprise Volley, if he revives the archer is the attacker, which means that with skirmish, I could not move Yanenga anymore. I could either move Achilles or the archer. He probably wants to get the archer back here, because Yanenga needs as much health as possible to survive big damage angry Achilles. But the action might be nice depending on the other cards he has in his hand, because of my low hand count. Though that would put him even lower, which is again a risky game to play.
It's in the opposing fighter's zone.
So we're talking about the archer placement, because the archer comes back in Achilles' zone, not Yanenga, so he could actually put the archer in a green or blue space anywhere on the board, because that is still in my zone, which is just crazy to think that Yanenga attacked me from here, then Surprise Volley brought the archer back here. I guess it's thematic. It is a surprise. Putting the archer behind Yanenga, I think, is a good choice, because that makes it harder for me to attack it, and it makes it easier for him to deal the damage to it. But he's going to put it here, which interestingly is not in Yanenga's zone. So he can't divert damage to it. I draw another kind of dud card, but I guess it's something that lets me boost. And I drew the card from winning the combat, which happens on offense and defense. I probably just I should have just kept Achilles there and smacked her with Battle Hardened. I guess if he played a point blank, it would have done 2 to each of us. But moving away is another passive move that, in retrospect, I don't like. I should have just stayed and attacked and played Battle Hardened for Battle Hardened, or played Battle Hardened for a double attack if she played something that didn't let her move after combat, and then just smacked her again. I guess it would have ended the loop, the infinite I had going, but it could have potentially dealt her some damage. And she's going to maneuver second action. So I guess moving away was the right move, actually, because I forgot that was her first action. Second action, she could have smacked me with a Jaws of the Beast that I would have only defended with a 2, putting me down at 7, which actually, yeah, I needed to move away from her in that instance. But I am playing this pretty defensively when in reality I should be going on the offensive, considering that I'm 3 cards down in the fatigue race and she still has a bunch of health. So I'm not sure if I should spear throw the archer here or maneuver in to hit Yananga while she doesn't have anyone to divert damage to. But again, me being at a low hand count means that a defensive shield formation will hurt me bad with the discard. And she's 3 spaces away in any direction, so I'd have to boost to hit her. So it might just be a good idea to spear throw the archer if I can get into its zone and then maneuver to a position where Yananga isn't really that far away. So I'm going to maneuver first to see what I draw. I draw the Handshake card, which is a 6 value attack. So a possible play I could do is boost with the Battle Frenzy and give Yananga a big ol' handshake. Which looks like what I'm doing because I'm boosting in with Battle Frenzy. And I can move into this white space, which will avoid a Jaws of the Beast. That will only be a 4 value block, so I'll still deal 2 damage over that. So he's going to defend with a point blank, which is actually a huge win for me because while he does deal 2 damage to me, I deal 4 to him, and he can't divert any of that to his archer since the archer is not in the white zone. So he'll go down to 10, I'll go down to 9. Now the health looks a little bit more even, and I'll draw a card, which will further the deck count differential. So I just need to land a few more of those, and then I'll be good. I need to hit big just a couple more times, and then I can close out this game, which with only 13 cards in my deck is approaching much more rapidly than I think the end of the game that is. He's probably going to maneuver away. He can go all the way down to this space without a boost, although he could put the archer there with this first maneuver and then put him there on the second maneuver and block Yananga off. Although I guess my solution to that is spear throw, which would kill it. If it was in the sand zone, that would actually be nice because then I wouldn't have to boost. But he's just going to move Yananga down there and then move the archer into her zone. So he's not going to body block with the archer, he's going to body block for the archer. So I actually can't hit the archer with spear throw unless I boost 1, 2, 3 spaces into this. But I did draw a pack card, so I could boost for 4 and then attack Yananga, although the biggest attack in my hand would be the Battle Hardened for 4. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to cycle. But if she played a shield formation on me, I'd probably have to discard Achilles' heel, which isn't a horrible card to discard. Like I said before, it's a solid card, and it's a defensive option that I no longer will have access to, especially since I'm concerned a little bit about my health, it being so low already. I've already lost half of my health this early in the game, and I still have a long way to go chipping down Yananga. So I'm thinking about boosting in here. There's only like a couple more boost fodder cards I have, since I have 1 more pack card, the one in my hand, 2 more double attacks and 1 more helm, and I really would like to be attacking with the double attack. So I choose to be a little bit less aggressive and just maneuver kind of more to the center of the board. And I'm going to play around Jaws by not ending on that tri-zone space. Although, right now he could just run over to this side of the map, and I would have to probably hope he puts himself in front of the archer if he was going to land on this space, but he can pretty comfortably land in these 2 spaces, I think, and be decently out of my range, especially although he doesn't know this because I don't have the other helm in my hand. I think from this position I might be able to hit every spot on the board if I maneuver boost with a helm, because you can go pretty far with 6 spaces. Problem is I only have 1 more of those. I'm drinking water in the video. I'm going to drink water in real life. Everyone hydrate with me. Cold water just hits different, you know. So he's doing a good job of keeping the archer in the Ananga zone for the damage distribution, especially since we haven't seen a single one with the land yet. That's still some healing he has that I need to deal with. So I'm slowly running out of options. I only have 11 cards left in deck, 5 in hand, while he still has 15 cards in deck, while also having 5 in hand. Though I think he still has 1 more action on this turn, which if I were him, I would probably just maneuver. He should be playing defensively as defensively as possible. I should be going full aggro mode, but I'm not seeing necessarily the right attacks in my hand to do that thus far. If I had drawn the double attack on that first maneuver instead of the Achilles heel, I for sure would have gone in and attacked Yananga there. Yeah, so he's going to move far away. This, I think, is not the best position he could have gone because I am still within 4 spaces of him and I can maneuver without throwing away one of my good cards, being Helm or the double attack. But he is trying to keep them in the same zone, and maybe he's playing around the other spear throw. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And what do I want to throw out? I got a couple of options here. I could either go with the handshake for a 6 value attack, or I could throw out the double for a 3 and a 5. That might be nice, considering that the 3 probably won't win the combat unless he plays another point blank on defense. That would actually be big for him because he wants to use point blanks into the double attacks, since that's my lowest value angry attack. And he does not want to play point blanks into the handshakes because then he takes 4. So I'm thinking he's going to play a 3 here. And he plays a point blank, which is a huge win for him because now I take 2 damage. I deal him 1 and I draw a card, which again is not the right like damage to card ratio I want. If I'm drawing a card, I want to deal at least 2, if not 3 damage. So him getting a point of damage that he even just slides off to his archer. That's pretty good for him. So how is he going to defend the 5 here is the question. Could play another skirmish to only take 1, or he's probably going to play a 3 to take 2. And I will be drawing another card, I think, because he doesn't have any... Or actually, he could play a Jaws, which would be a 5, which would cause me to not draw. But he's going to play a skirmish, which is, again, the good damage to card ratio for him, because he's taking 1 damage and I'm drawing a card, which is I am very not happy about. So now I'm down to 8 cards in deck. He's still at 14. And with only 7 health, fatigue is going to be a big problem for me. So he's going to play 1 with the land while he has the archer at 1 health and him also at 1 health. So basically he just healed 2, which means that I did no damage to him on my turn with the double attacks and still drew 2 cards. Which was just, that turn was a massive win for him. If I had played the 6 into the point blank, he would have been at, I think, 7 as well if he still dealt 1 to the archer. and I would have one more card in my deck. And I guess after the one with the land, he'd be at 8. So that, in retrospect, I guess knowing that he was going to defend with the point blank was probably going to be the right play. And I guess it's fine for Unanga. I'm drinking in the video. I got to drink in real life. Hydrate with me, friends. I think that's fine for Unanga to play on defense just because of her health. And she still has at least one archer left with the surprise volley, and I guess 2 if you count shield formation, but I'm not going to let that happen. So playing the point blanks now before they become a liability is a good way to pressure my health total, especially since he has the advantage right now. And they're not as good later in the game when Unanga is on death's door. Point blank is just a good card in this matchup because you can even just attack with it from range, and if Achilles blocks with anything, he's going to win the combat and draw. Which, as Unanga, your win condition in this game is to either combo Achilles to death after Pat dies and he doesn't have many cards in his hand, or win through fatigue. And it looks like it's going to be a fatigue victory for him if it keeps going at this pace, because I'm just not able to deal that much damage to him with my attacks, and I'm very quickly drawing cards. So I'm going to feint here in case it's a double attack or the archer revive, which it was. So I take 1 damage, I do not draw a card, and I cancel a pretty good effect. So now he just has 1 more potential archer with shield formation, which I'm not going to let go off. And I have a spear throw in hand to deal with that last archer. So it's not the end of the world, just Unanga has a lot of health I need to deal with right now. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of that last archer now that I know that he doesn't have any more revives. Again, I'm assuming that I'm not going to let his shield formation get off. And I think I'm left maneuvering, and I probably don't want to end my turn on that tri-zone space. So I could just move again to more central positioning and boost in, although the highest boost I have in my hand is a 4. So actually, with a feint and 2 heals in hand, I think I should just go end right next to him and just tempt an attack, which is exactly what I do. I think the worst case scenario for me here would be a stallion charge, because then he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces and then maneuver away, and he'd be pretty far away from me. I don't think I'd be able to boost to get there. But if he's attacking me, he's not drawing more defenses, and I have a feint in hand, so I might just feint the first attack he plays if it's a Jaws or a stallion charge, whatever. And if I feint that, he can either attack me again, which would put him at 1 card, or he can maneuver away. And if he doesn't boost, I'd be able to just walk up and smack him pretty easily. So this is the uncomfortable plays you have to make to pressure your opponent, especially when you are on the back foot and you are on the timer. You being me here. I think the worst case scenario would be if it was the point blank, because then I would actually win with the feint. And of course I say that, so he's going to not deal any damage to me, so I will draw a card, and he didn't play something that I actually wanted to cancel, like the Jaws or the Stallion charge. But I do have a sizable hand advantage over him, and he's at a point blank, so I'm not, I guess, worried about the 2 auto damage anymore. It's just the 3 damage from the remaining Stallion charges that could be an issue. So he's going to play Master of the Hunt. Probably not to attack me here. He's probably going to use that as like a double maneuver opportunity, which is just a very good play by him, because now he's back at 3 cards instead of being at 1 or 2. And of course that lets him get 4 spaces away, so I'll have to boost probably with a heal here. So that's what I end up doing. Not really worried about a shield formation right now because I have enough options in my hand. The question is, do I want to hit big with the handshake or maybe something smaller with the battle hardened? Jaws is a 5 here, which is what he plays. So I, again, deal him 1 damage, which is not good for me. I think in retrospect, I probably should have... I should be using battle hardened a little bit more often because I want to bait out those big attacks like Jaws and not put one of my biggest value attacks into it because that saves him a lot of health. He still has 2 of those left too. I guess I just wanted to throw my biggest attack at him and just see what would happen, especially since his hand count was just so low. He had 3 cards in his hand, attacked me down to 2, and played Master of the Hunt down to 1. So he was kind of at the liberty of whatever he drew from that double maneuver to refill his hand. So I guess I was hoping that he didn't draw Jaws, but he has 10 cards left in hand. I guess he had 11 since he maneuvered on this turn. So I guess the odds of him having at least 1 Jaws in a hand count of 3 with 11 cards left in deck, I guess isn't the worst thing in the world. So he's going to boost with the Pin the Prey and maneuver again. So he could get 6 spaces, I think, because Pin the Prey has a boost value of 2. Yeah. Although based on the pathing he took, he is actually only 5 spaces away. If he went 1, 2 with the boost, 1, 2, and then with his maneuver again, 1, 2, he'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess, no, maybe he only could get 5. I don't know. It's too much to think of on the fly, and I don't want to look any more foolish than I am already making myself look, so I'm going to boost in with the Helm to catch up since I don't have the double attack in hand. And I'm going to throw out a big ol' slap on him again. Just keep pressuring him. I'm throwing out a 6. If he plays another Jaws here, I think I'm going to lose my mind. It's another Jaws, so I deal 1 damage to him again with a big value attack. And this is really... He's just getting so lucky on the I guess the 50-50 the mind games here because I think the last 4 attacks, the double attack, the skirmish, and the handshake, have all dealt him 1 damage and drawn me 4 cards, which is just huge wins for him. That's another example of a time where I should have played the Battle Hardened to bait out those big value attacks from him. So with only 2 cards left in deck and 6 health, the fatigue is looking like it's going to kill me. And I do move him away with the skirmish so that he's further away from the center of the board. He's more on the edge. And he, I guess, he's further away from these tri-zone spaces. So he's going to run down into the purple zone with 1 with the land, which will heal him 1. That's fine to use right now since he's not going to get any more value out of the archers. And then he's going to maneuver. So he's going to move there to be in, I think, just as many zones as he can and pressure me with attacks if possible. But I don't even think he needs to attack me. Well, I guess attacking me here is painful for me because if I win the combat, I draw a card, and that will just kill me with fatigue. And if I lose the combat, I take damage from the combat, which kills me. So when Achilles has low health this late in the game, it's actually very easy for him to die. He just needs to kill you quicker. So this is lucky for me. My 3 matches up with his 3, doesn't deal any damage. And then I'm throwing a 5 at him while he only has 2 cards in hand. So drawing the double attack there, I think it was the card I drew with that maneuver, was I think the best case scenario for me, considering that the last card in my deck right now is... Skirmish? Yeah, Skirmish. I just drew it. So he's at 5, but my deck is empty, so it's really not looking good here. Because if he maneuvers, actually, I'm out of double attacks and helms. So if he just maneuvers twice and boosts one of them, I won't be able to hit him. Because he could just, if he boosts for 1, he could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I just wouldn't be able to hit him because the only boost values I have left are 2s. So him actually doing this lets me get this last swing in because I'm going to go down to 4 from maneuvering, and I'm assuming I'm going to win the attack. So I'll go down to 2. Then on his turn, he just maneuvers away, and I am forced to maneuver, and I die to fatigue. So what went wrong for me this game? Potentially not killing Pat soon enough. He could have died a turn earlier if I had played Dave or Doom. Although I think he attacked me, or he attacked Pat when he was at 3 health. So actually this didn't really matter because he would have been at 1 and would have died from the attack anyways. I did defend Pat turn 1, which also slowed down the death. So I guess if I didn't defend Pat, he would have taken 2. And then I couldn't attack Nanga with the Day of Your Doom when I Hermes. I would have attacked the Archer, which I think would also be fine. So I probably should have killed Pat sooner. I should have been more aggressive with Achilles during the upper white zone battle in the game. I think moving away to get to the safety of the violet zone, only to maneuver back in after Pat died, was kind of just a loss of tempo. I should have stayed right here and actually been able to use the wily fighting when he attacked me. And I'm playing the battle hardened here. I think that's a mistake. I think I should have played the skirmish and hope that he just didn't have a block card, because if he actually just takes the attack, he would go down to 1 and it wouldn't matter what I bring back. I guess I'm hoping that he plays a Jaws and that I don't win the combat so that I can actually maneuver on my turn. But he has 6 cards in deck, 3 cards in hand, 1 Jaws left. So I guess it's like a 33% chance that he actually has that card. I should have just played them in the skirmish and hoped that he didn't have anything to block with in hand. Although actually, now that I'm thinking about that, he only has 1 scheme left and 2 attacks left. So the odds that that is his exact hand and he has nothing to block with is actually very low. So maybe the battle hardened into Jaws is the right play. It's just tricky. I don't really think there is a win condition for me here if he blocks, which he does. So he plays a Stallion Charge, which is just insult to injury, because now I win the combat by dealing him 1 damage, but I take 2 for drawing, and then he deals me 1 more with the charge, I'm assuming, unless he just moves 5 spaces away. And him moving the 5 spaces will pretty much seal the game for me because I can't maneuver boost to him. Well, I guess I could take back a Helm with the Battle Hardened to be able to boost to him, but I couldn't actually maneuver since my health is so low. So he just needs to run far, far away and then double maneuver on his turn, and that will be the game. So the other thing that didn't help me at all was the fact that I think this was like the 5th time this game where I attacked him and dealt 1 damage, which is just not a winning strategy. Well, I guess not a winning strategy. It's not a winning outcome, I guess, because he played the point blank into a double attack, which is what he wants to do. But he did play 1 point blank into a 6 value attack, so I guess it evens out. And then he played 4 value Jaws twice into a 5 value attack, which just hurts. Or no, he played the 4 value Jaws into my double attack, I think. Actually, it was a 5 because I was here. So he didn't take any damage from that. And then he played a 5 value Jaws here from the, I think I played a skirmish here, yeah, and moved him there. So uh, you can call me unlucky, whatever. My opponent made good block decisions, I think is what it comes down to. He didn't take a lot of damage from my attacks, and I think if I was aggressive earlier, I could have pressured his low hand count, because he didn't have a lot of cards in his hand for a lot of the game. I think I should have been more aggressive, especially with Pat. I think I should have made him die sooner, and that would have, I think, given me more time to be able to defeat her instead of running out the clock in exhaustion and not being able to put Yanenga away. So game 3 will be my Achilles versus his Sherlock. Oh boy, a member of the big 3, but I will have map position and starting position. So let's see how that game played out after a seamless transition. Okay, so we're back in game 3, Achilles versus Sherlock, with starting position and map choice. I picked Hero because this is a very tight, close map that Sherlock won't be able to escape me from forever. And I chose going first because I want to be very aggressive in this matchup and probably attack turn 1. So this is probably the most interesting mulligan choice I've had thus far this match. I have some very aggressive options, such as the double handshake. Let's pause so I can talk for a little bit longer. I have Skirmish and Helm, which are great early defensive options, especially for Achilles. I want to kill Pat as quick as possible in this matchup, so Helm helps that a lot, despite the fact that I don't have some Pat-specific attacks to damage him. And I also have Spear Throw. So it isn't the greatest hand ever, but it allows me to play both of my handshakes on turn 1 because I can put Pat 2 spaces away from Sherlock at least and start off with potentially 2 or 3 attacks depending on what I draw with my first maneuver. And if Sherlock doesn't have any cancels, well, he's going to get a beatdown upon him. Having a Spear Throw early, I guess, is nice. If I want to kill Watson, depending on where his opening placement is, the Spear Throw might be a nice option to potentially get him off the board once he's weakened. But I'm not sure what this hand is going to lead me to do after my first turn. So it's kind of like a big risk right out of the gate. And, or I should say a big impact right out of the gate. And then after that, it might just screech to a halt. But I need to be really aggressive against Sherlock. His biggest weakness is his lack of blocks. So I just need to attack, run him out of defenses, and hope that I kill him before he confirms 3 of my helms and I die. So a little bit of a risk keeping this hand, but I like the double handshake. And if I'm going to win this match, I'm going to need to take risks, I think, because Sherlock can be a big pain in the butt to try to defeat. So I think if I just tried to play a straight up game, I would lose against him. So I need to be really aggressive, and yeah, I'm going to have to take some risks. I think I'm going to place Pat probably outside one of these doors. It doesn't really matter because the map is symmetrical, but placing him here allows me to move 2 spaces to Sherlock, and if he places Watson on the same side as me, that will also be just a single maneuver without having to boost. Seeing him keep is bad because it means that he probably feels very comfortable with his hand. I'm assuming he knows that I will attack him turn 1 just because that's what this map is kind of designed to do. Raptors really love this map. Bloody Mary really loves this map because you're just a hop, skip, and a maneuver away from attacking your opponent, and there's not much they can do about it if they're going second. So going first on this map as aggressive characters is a pretty good idea, I think. I put Pat outside. If he puts Watson up here, I just will ignore him, and if he puts Watson there to defend Sherlock, I guess, from that side, I will go attack him just because having Watson out of the way early, I think, is really helpful. But the problem is if he survives past like turn 3, you're probably just going to lose. The biggest reason you want to kill Watson is because there are 6 Watson specific cards, and if you kill Watson just like turn 2, that's 20% of Sherlock's deck that is just dead draws. And when he's double maneuvering every turn to try to find block options, it's really nice when he's drawing useless cards that he couldn't even attack or scheme with otherwise. So we're going to open up with the double handshake on Watson. Hopefully he just doesn't block twice and he's dead right out of the get-go. Watson can't use elementary, counterpunch, or deduce strategy, I believe. I'm not super familiar with Sherlock's deck, but he still can use study methods, education never ends, feint, and the Watson specific card fixed point in a changing age, which I would love to see now because well, I guess it would heal Watson 1, but it wouldn't heal Sherlock at all, which is the most important thing. And on my maneuver, I am attacking Watson first with Pat to try to get him out of the way, as I just described, and I'm putting Achilles in a kind of central position close to wherever Sherlock could go. So this was the worst case scenario for me. He played Education Never Ends and lost the combat because 4 beats 3. So he will draw 2 cards. Card draw is Sherlock's biggest weakness, and he has this option, Education Never Ends, to replenish his hand the best, I guess. The other card that draws him a card in his deck is Administer Aid, which just is a scheme that draws 1 card, so you're not drawing more cards than you would normally get from a double maneuver, or I guess a single maneuver for that action. So my opponent accidentally drew 3 cards when he was supposed to draw 2, so he returned them to the deck and is shuffling, and we'll draw 2 now. Good, he drew the right amount. Yeah, I think this was like his 3rd or 4th time playing on Vorpal, so the mistakes are a little... it's okay to make mistakes, I guess is what I'm saying for your first time. So I'm just going to attack him again with the double handshake. Let's see what happens. The card I drew from the maneuver was another Helm, which isn't not what I wanted to see when I already had 1 in my hand, but if he attacks Achilles, Pat is going to be the target of that attack. And I can do that twice. I really would have loved to see a Pat card there instead, so that I would actually have something to attack with on my next turn. It also means that the action I gain from the handshake will probably be used maneuvering instead of attacking again, because I'm not sure if I want to use the skirmish here as the 3rd attack in this chain. Depends on what he blocks with for this attack, though. If he just takes the attack, I'd probably throw the skirmish out. If he blocks it, I don't think the skirmish will be able to deal enough damage to kill him, so I'll probably just back off and maneuver and try to get another option in my hand. I'm drinking water in the video, so I'll drink water in real life. Let's hydrate, homies. Ooh, boy. That's some good water.
Wait, how did you, when you maneuver, oh, right, you gained an action. Yeah.
So he has 6 cards in his hand. 1 more than he started with, but 2 new cards. So he, I'm sure, has options. And he's going to block with the other Education Never Ends. So at this point in the match, I'm smiling right now, but I literally just shat myself because I think this was the worst case scenario. I dealt 2 damage to Watson, and he drew 4 cards in total. So he is starting his turn with, I think, a full hand of 7 cards. He could combo me. I have 2 Helms in hand. This is just the worst case scenario. And I drew a heal, which is not something I can attack with. So my hand wants me to play pretty passively, whereas, like I said, I don't want to play passively at all. So I'm moving closer to Sherlock just to get more in his face, moving closer with Achilles, of course. And if he attacks me, I guess it's sort of a bait because I want to play Helm. I want to be attacked so that I can swap in Pat and have him die. Behold the mighty Cactus Cup. Revel it in all its glory. Excuse me. Oh boy. So seeing 2 handshakes is nice, I guess, if I'm not going to see Pat cards. And he's attacking Achilles, which is exactly what I wanted, so I will do that. And this is quite the sight to see. So Pat will take 1 damage from the counterpunch, and then 2 more damage from the after combat effect. So he is at half of his total life. You'll love to see it, really, especially because that's 2 damage that is not going to be on Achilles later in the game.
He takes 1 from the and then 2 from the. So you took 3 total.
Discussing the rules, and now he has 1 more action. I'm assuming he's going to maneuver, but he does have a lot of cards in hand, so he could even scheme, depending on what he has. But going up to 7 cards as Sherlock, always something that's scary for an opponent. It's good that I played, or was able to play, one of my helms, because if Sherlock ever is able to look at my hand and see that I have a 4 value boost card in it, he will confirm me for 2. I will take 4 damage, and Achilles, he needs every bit of health he can get in this matchup. I don't think Sherlock has enough damage between his counterpunch and his 5 value attacks and his confirms to get through all 18 of my health necessarily, but it's just, yeah, it's obvious that having more health is better than not having any health, but I'm trying to preserve my health for as long as possible, especially since I'm being aggressive. I'll open myself up to a lot of counter attacks, and I just want to make sure that I can sustain it long enough to be able to kill him. He's attacking Pat, so I'm not going to defend. And I think he gets another best case scenario because he plays study methods. So because he won the combat, he gets to look at my hand and see all of my options. So we're talking about the order of operations here, because my ability says when Patroclus is defeated, and study method said after combat, look at the opponent's hand. So we're trying to figure out what happens first, him looking at my hand or me discarding the cards randomly. I don't think it really matters here because he's going to know what's in my hand either way. But I think we end up going with the ability discard happening first, because the card says when, and Patroclus was defeated with the like card value combat damage calculation step, which happens before after combat effects. Let's just skip forward until we actually resolve it. We're just discussing it for a while. This is all semantics, yada yada yada. Card art on study methods is pretty cool because it's not the the papers are making like the outline of a dude. Whew. Hope everyone's day is going just splendidly. It's good that Pat is dying on basically before my second turn. That's always nice to see because I want to be aggressive. I want to have angry Achilles for as long as possible. So having Pat dead as early as possible gives me that. We're going to roll twice. We roll a 1, so goodbye spear throw, which I guess isn't necessarily the quickest way to kill a character with 16 health, and 2, which is the heal. So I think that isn't horrible. He gets to look at my hand, so I would have rather have discarded the helm from that. Probably have kept the spear and the skirmish as the best options, but it's random, so you take what you get and you cry later after the match. So now he knows 2 cards in my hand. I think I have to play around Confirm Suspicion here and probably boost a maneuver with the helm, even though I probably don't need the spaces. Seeing a Battle Hardened early before the random discards come out is nice, and at this point he knows that I have a skirmish and a card I can't attack with, so it'd kind of be like a 50-50 depending on what he blocks with. And if I attack with Battle Hardened, he'll know exactly what's in my hand, and if I attack with Skirmish, there'll be 1 card that he is not aware of. So I probably need to lay off him just for a turn to draw my hand back and actually get good attacks. Like a double attack would be really nice here, but we'll see. I'm probably going to want to go after Watson on my next turn, depending on what I draw. But if I can't kill Watson on my next turn or the turn after, it's a wasted effort, I think. Seeing both Battle Hardens is nice. I can start the cycle unless he wants to play a cancel. Probably would have rather drawn a different card, I guess, but having them on defense is nice because I could get Spear Throw or the big slap back. I maneuvered first, or I moved myself to the middle of the board just in case I wanted to further run away, but I want to be close to Sherlock because I need to attack him and I can only move 2 spaces, so moving to that the edge of the board without a door, that right side, I don't think is the best play for me right now, but I can move 6 spaces with the boost from Helm, which I boosted not for the movement capabilities, but more so to get that out of my hand and play around a potential confirmed suspicion, dealing me 4 damage. Although, I suppose I could have kept it since I have 2 Battle Hardens, but I'd rather keep the mystery about what's in my hand alive. I'm drinking in the video, so let's drink in real life. Let's hydrate, homies. So I tried to stay in the middle as much as I could to be as close as possible to Sherlock and or Watson, and I'm thinking he could double maneuver and go up to 7. He could attack me, especially since I only have 3 cards in my hand, and he saw me discard 2 defenses. So with the heel and the helm, he's going to move Sherlock far, far away, move Watson there. Now I am in that yellow zone, so he could attack me as Watson, which isn't a half bad idea, especially if he has the revolver. It could just be a bait attack with another study methods or Watson's versatile 3. But I probably need to respect this with the skirmish because taking 3 damage over the Battle Hardened, if it is the service revolver attack, would not be good. So probably going to want to defend with skirmish here. And that isn't the worst case scenario, because if it's a bait attack from Watson, it's not the 5. The skirmish will win the combat, and I can move Watson adjacent to me, or I can move adjacent to Watson and potentially double slap him on my turn, since none of the block cards in Holmes's deck have after combat move effects. So I'm really thinking about this here. Is the Battle Hardened worth taking 3 damage if it is potentially a service revolver? Oh, I don't know, but oh yeah, take it back, hokey pokey. I really think skirmish is the play here, but we'll see what past baked goods has to say. There we go. I make the right choice and play the skirmish. Okay, so it was a bait attack. So I draw a card for winning the combat because 4 is bigger than 3. His after combat does not go off because they're not adjacent, so Watson doesn't heal, but I can now use the skirmish effect and move one of us 2 spaces. I think moving Watson to the center of the board, just like that, is the right play instead of moving towards Watson, because that gets him out, or I should say it gets him inside the house, out of range of the doors. And I drew a spear throw, my second spear throw from winning that combat. So that does give me a potential another 2 damage to deal on Watson with that scheme. Attacking Watson here. It's only a 4 value attack, but I think the best case scenario here would be him not defending and then me playing spear throw. He's thinking about what would have happened if I drew my third handshake, I think. I'm drinking in the video, so I'll drink in real life. Hydrate, homies. Same water bottle and everything. I did add new water, though. No, it's not like whatever water I don't finish during my game, I just leave to sit in the bottle until I go to record this commentary. No, it's fresh water. It's not stale, marinating water. He's going to play Study Methods. Good thing I will win the combat. I deal him 1 damage, so he doesn't get to look at my hand. And I get the Battle Hardened effect and add a card back to my hand, which I think Skirmish is probably the best option here. It has the lowest boost value, and it's a 4 on attack. Skirmish is pretty much always better to bring back than the Handshake card because you can't use the Handshake card on defense if you need it. I guess I could bring back Spear Throw, but I can't kill Watson with only 2 damage yet, so I probably want a big attack, especially since I can attack again on my turn. So I take the Spear Throw back and use it on Watson right away, which I guess it's an interesting play because now he won't suspect that I have a Spear Throw in my hand. And interesting play there that I chose to Spear Throw him second action instead of attacking him with something like a Skirmish. One thing I will note is that my opponent has already played 2 any defense cards. Or I should say 3, I guess, defending Watson. He's played 2 of the Educations and 1 Study Methods. The other Study Methods was an attack, I believe. Yeah, so those are cards that Sherlock no longer has access on defense. Sherlock has 15 cards he can block with, and you can see on the screen with 2 Educations, a Counterpunch, and a Study Methods, that's 5 gone. So he only has 10 more he can block with. The scheme, or the versatile card all the way on the right is a Watson only card. So he's keeping Watson alive at the cost of cards that Holmes could use on defense later in the game that he no longer has access to. And I think part of my win condition is running Sherlock out of blocks or catching him without any blocks in his hand. So seeing that a third of Sherlock's potential blocks are already gone is a big relief to me, especially that Counterpunch, because that means Achilles won't be taking that damage. The scary thing is, though, he still has 2 Elementaries, which could completely cancel and nullify my values, and he has 3 Feints, which I don't want to hit with double attacks. I want to hit Feints with big 6-value swings like the Handshakes or Skirmish. So he's moving them close together. I think he's opting to leave the door open and making another attack with Watson. If he attacks me again, I guess I could expect the Changing Age, the card he's already played, since they are adjacent, but that would only heal Watson 1. So I think it probably would be the Service Revolver. Interesting that I'm going to play another Battle Hardened and potentially take 3 damage, which is exactly what happens. So I go down to 15. But this allows me to bring something back. I could bring back the other Battle Hardened and have a loop. But no, I choose to use I get back the Skirmish. And I think the reason for that is because now there's nothing that will keep Watson alive if I attack him with a Skirmish, because the highest thing he can defend with is a 3. And the Skirmish will be a 6 and kill him like during the combat damage calculation resolution stage before a fixed point in a Changing Age could go off, which is exactly what I think I'm doing. I don't think I would have brought back the Skirmish if he played the fixed point in a Changing Age on defense that turn, because then he would have been at 4 and defending with another 3 could have kept him alive. Though I'm not sure if there are any 3s left in his deck. Like I said, I'm not too proficient with Sherlock's deck just because he doesn't get a lot of play, so having his deck memorized isn't that helpful. So he chooses not to block, I think maybe because he knows Watson will die. So I draw a card and I get the skirmish effect, which lets me move 2 spaces. So I'm just going to move right up into Holmes's business. So Watson is dead. That took a couple turns, but the health total is relatively even, and I'm only 2 cards ahead of him in terms of deck count. He only has 4 cards in hand, which is really nice, so I'm not completely out of this game yet. I just need to start dealing damage to him fast. So he's actually going to attack me. I think this is going to be the 5, otherwise he probably wouldn't be attacking me. So I defend with a 3, I take 2 damage, but my Wily triggers before his after combat move effect occurs, so he's still adjacent to me, and he takes 1 damage from the Wily fighting. And then he uses he can use the effect from the game is afoot to move up to 3 spaces, which I'm assuming he will just get the heck away from me. Probably escape towards the top of the map. He's thinking about what I still have in my hand, because everything he knows is already gone, because he saw a helm in a skirmish, I think. I boosted with the helm, played the skirmish, but then I brought it back. So I maybe have another skirmish in my hand if I had 2, but probably not that likely. And then he's just going to maneuver again, get his hand count back up. And this, I think, is the first mistake he makes, because he doesn't actually move with the maneuver, which means I'm still 2 spaces away from him, which means I don't have to boost in to hit him. And you can see here the light bulb goes off, and he's like, oh no, why couldn't I just move more? Yeah, so he was reading the cards. He forgot to actually move with the maneuver. And he's going to take it. So he's going to be dealt 3 damage with the first part of this attack. He actually heals himself instead of taking 3 damage there. And I win the combat, so I draw a card, which, lucky me, is another double attack. And him taking the first attack probably means he isn't holding any defense, and he's going to end up taking the second attack, definitely because he doesn't have any defense. So he is going to go down to 7 health. He took 8 damage from that swing. He accidentally healed himself again. So let's just pause it real quick. Actually, I'll wait till he gets the health sorted out, so it's sorted out for the freeze frame. So he's at 7 health. So he moved 3 spaces with the game as afoot. He could have then moved 2 more spaces with the maneuver, and that would put me 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away from him. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, whatever direction I went from. At the time, I had a spear throw, skirmish, feint, and a double attack in my hand, which meant if I wanted to hit him, I would have had to boost with the double attack, which not sure if I would have done, or if I would have just maneuvered or I guess it's either spear throwed, or I guess I don't think actually if he ended here I could spear throw him without moving, but if he ended in this dark zone I would have to boost to actually spear throw him, and that wouldn't make sense. I would just boost and hit him. So if I boosted with the double attack, I could have hit him with a skirmish, which would have been 6, and since he didn't have any block cards in his hand, he would have been at 9 instead of 7. So I guess that was just like a bad turn for him in general, because he was probably going to take damage. The way, I guess, around that is just double maneuvering on his turn instead of attacking me and then maneuvering. I guess because when he attacked me, he probably didn't have any... Oh, I'm assuming he didn't have any block cards in his hand, and he banked on drawing one from a maneuver, which is just really risky for Sherlock, because with 15 cards in your deck, that means just on average you're going to draw half a block card per maneuver, which means one block card per turn if you double maneuver. And since there's already 5 homes or any block cards out, and he had 19 cards left in deck, that gives him, there's roughly 10 block cards left in that around 20 card deck. So yeah, the math still works out there. So on his turn now, he definitely has to play very conservatively and probably just run away. And he's going to move inside, close the door. He's going to boost with Administer Aid, basically a Dud Watson card. He is moving outside because he is actually slightly inexperienced on this map. I think we had like a pre-game chat, and he doesn't own the Little Red Beowulf set. So he forgot that this side of the building doesn't actually have a door, so I think he's going to go back down and close those doors and just try to get as far away from me as possible. That was a big health swing for me there. I dealt 8 damage to him with 1 attack. And now you can see I've kind of like leaned forward in my chair, if you will, just because I'm like, holy cow, he only has 7 health left, so I just need to smack him a little bit more. I got a spear throw that'll bring him down to 5, so I just need to find 5 more damage somewhere in my deck. And I already have a skirmish and test for weakness in hand, which will be nice. I drew a helm, which I need to get rid of ASAP as possible in case he combos me and confirms for 2. That would deal me 4 damage. Not good. I guess this is what I was talking about when I wanted to preserve my health early game, because now, later in the game, when I actually have a health advantage because I avoided taking a lot of damage early, I can be very aggressive and not really fear counter attacks or counter punches, I guess, because the health differential is so big that I'm not in danger of dying in 1 or 2 turns at this moment. So he can put 5s at me and play his counter punches, but I will still deal enough damage to him to kill me before he can with those measures. Drew a Pat card, which is perfect here to boost with and go 4 spaces and be right next to him, but instead I choose to use the helm so that I can go around and open the door. I probably should have opened the other door with that extra movement I had, but no need to be greedy, I suppose. So I boosted with that just to get it out of my hand. I guess I could have also boosted with the Pat card and gone around, because 1, 2, 3, 4, I think I was here, but 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I could have boosted with that to get here too, but you just need to get that out of your hand versus home so that you don't take 4 damage, because that's how I think he would get back in this game, dealing 4 damage to me. Because then just his counter punches and his other things. So he's going to play Elementary. He's got basically some options. He could say it's a 1, a 2 if it's a feint, a 3 if it's a Wily or a Hermes, or a 4 if it's a skirmish or a handshake. So he's actually got a wide margin of guesses he could make here. Probably shouldn't guess 2. I think 3. So he guesses 4 to preserve health, but it's actually the second double attack. I think he didn't figure, he didn't think it might be another double attack since I just attacked him with 1. The odds of me having like 2 in my hand and a relatively low hand count are pretty low. So he wins the first combat, 3 into a 3, so I don't draw a card. And then he's getting attacked with a face-up 5. So if he has a block card here, he needs to play it because he's at 7 health. He'll go down to 2 if he doesn't defend here. And he's going to end up taking it and going down to 2. So, yes, taking those 3 undefended attacks for 13 damage really, really hurt him. And I guess I felt I felt pretty bad in the moment. You can tell by his body language that he's obviously very upset with himself. And it wasn't like a celebration moment, I guess, because he forgot to move here. It's just one little mistake that is going to end up causing him the whole match. And it just goes to show that at this level of play, you just got to be really careful. You got to go through your options, and you can't forget any details. I know how easy it is to just potentially overthink things or make mistakes. For example, in the first time I was streamed in the Summer of Legends semifinals, I played Beowulf my first game, and I always forgot to gain rage just because there was so much else I was thinking about. So I understand how easy it is to forget even the most like basic things. He's going to eliminate the impossible here and look at my hand. That was definitely a a winning move here because the spear throw is lethal. I would just boost into his zone and then play it. And I wasn't sure if he was going to play Confirm Suspicion or not, so I just left my hand up because he's already seen my hand. Just trying to remember the boost values is a little annoying. But I think if he confirms here, he's definitely dead just because I can hit him for a lot, and being able to double attack him would be nice. So he's going to maneuver boost with the service revolver, the second one, so he can move 5 spaces. And he moved through this corner space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just because I remember that wasn't the most experienced on this map, I pointed out that these 2 spaces are actually connected, so he can move 1 more space. He probably also should have closed the door while he was in this space adjacent to it, because now instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and making me boost with the double attack, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 and boost with a pat attack. And I have 2 in my hand, so that's something I can easily do. I'm going to boost with Day of Your Doom and move 1, 2, 3, 4. And probably just whack him with a skirmish here, because if he plays a 3, he's dead. If he plays a feint, he's dead. I guess the only way he survives this is playing elementary or to do strategy. And I forgot about that card. That was the first one that's shown up this game. And it turns the value of my card to my boost value. So now instead of a 6, or a base value 4, I should say, it's a base value 1. So 3 into a 3, he wins the combat, so I don't deal any damage to him, and I don't draw a card. But this is really good for me. I'm pressuring him. He only has 2 cards in his hand, which is just really, really risky as Sherlock. And he's played, I think at this point, like 7 or 8 blocks, so it's just getting those last few out of his hand. And I guess like feint isn't even, so let's count here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's played 7, and he only has 15. Feint doesn't really count because anything I throw at it will just kill him at this point, except for the 3rd double attack, but he'd have to be really gutsy to feint that. So if we don't count feints, he has 5 block cards left. 1 elementary, 2 counter punches, and 2 deduce strategies. And even the counter punches won't save him if I swing with a 6. So he's going to maneuver. He's going to move. It's funny, we're just like running laps around this house. He's going to double maneuver. Classic Sherlock. And he's going to be 4 spaces away. Fortunately, I have another pat card in my hand, which has a boost value of 2, so I can go attack. And I don't really have the best options in my hand right now for attacking. It's literally only feint, and a lot of Holmes's cards can't be canceled even. So I'm just throwing it out because I'm trying to pressure him. If he doesn't have a block card, he'll just die anyways. If he feints this, he'll die. So I just need to just throw everything I have at him, even if it isn't the best that it normally would be. So if he plays Deduce, it'll still change the value of the feint. Cactus Cup, behold it in all its might. It won't cancel the Deduce because Deduce is a Holmes card, and Sherlock Holmes' ability is that Holmes and Watson cards cannot be canceled. So he does play the deduce. So I'm just swinging with a 4 that becomes a 3 because the base value of feint is 1. So he wins the combat again. I don't draw a card. Doesn't take any damage. So now he effectively has 4 cards left to block with. The last deduce, the last elementary, and 2 counter punches. And he has 13 cards in deck, 3 in hand. So 4 cards out of 16. We'll see. And I guess the best thing I have is to attack is a feint, so it's not even that good. It's just like I'm hoping to draw the last skirmish, the last handshake, or the last double attack from this. But even like a Wily would be good because Sherlock doesn't have after combat move effects on his block cards. So I think he's thinking about maybe even scheming or attacking me here. I think if he attacks me, I'm forced to play the heal because I want something in my hand to attack him with, if possible, on my next turn. The heal is risky, though, because he still has 1 the game is afoot left, and that's a 5 value card. So he would actually win the combat over heal, deal me 1 damage, wouldn't draw a card, and he would still get the... He'd still have 2 actions to double maneuver, but I think it's better than playing a feint, not having anything to attack with on my next turn, just besides a maneuver, I guess. And I would take 3 damage over that card, and it wouldn't even cancel the effect. But it was only 1 card. Like, what were the chances? I guess I guess the chances were pretty high because he probably wouldn't attack with a versatile card because he only has so many of those left. Maybe a feint if he had one potentially. But so yeah, I take 1 damage, don't draw a card, and he still has 2 actions and gets to move 3 spaces away. So he's gonna double maneuver anyways on his turn. So I guess only taking 1 damage from a 5 is a win, I guess. But now I don't have anything to boost with either. So that was a bit of a tricky situation there. I was either gonna take damage or give him another action. So a little bit of a tricky situation, but that's what happens when you're playing at a low hand count, especially very aggressively. I'm basically playing like Bloody Mary right now. So he's probably going to maneuver, close the door, and maneuver again, and have 4 cards in hand. And be pretty far away from me that I probably won't be able to reach him this turn at least. But I guess I'm not really on an exhaustion clock. I still have 10 cards in deck, and I have 10 more health than him. So I just need to put together some sort of hand that will let me kill him. But I guess relatively quickly because I don't want him to feel comfortable enough to start playing schemes like Confirmed Suspicion that will end up killing me. So on his last action, or his third action, I guess, he should play Speak 3 times. On his third action, let's see, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, open 2, 3, 4, 5, open 6, 7. So I'm pretty far away from him. I don't have any cards that would let me reach him with a boost. He's going to Master of Disguise us, which deals me 1 damage and swaps our positions, which is actually like good for me because that means he didn't spend an action maneuvering and potentially drawing a block card. So I'm assuming he has something to block within his hand, and I'm going to want to get into attack, especially after drawing Blessed by Hermes, which would be a 5. And I want to take center position here. So moving right there gives me a lot of options, especially with Battle Frenzy in hand. That will let me move 4 spaces. Which I think right now would let me basically go anywhere on the map. I think his one safety place would be going 1, 2, open 3, 4. Would be going like here or here after closing this door, which would require him to boost maneuver or double maneuver and boost one of them and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he'd have to boost with a 3 on one of his maneuvers. I think that's like a confirmed suspicion. Close the door and then go here, but that doesn't play around the fact that I have a 5 value maneuver left with a double attack. I could go 1, 2, open 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, open 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I could basically go anywhere on the board if I was holding this one particular card. 11 cards left. I'm holding 3. I can maneuver and have 4. Probably not the best odds for that one specific card, but he doesn't really have any outs. And with 4 spaces of movement, I can still go pretty much anywhere on the board. And that's why controlling the center of the map is very important, especially when you're the aggressor. Forcing your opponent to kind of slink around the edges gives you the best angles at them wherever they go. So he is boosting with Administer Aid and going there, which gives him an extra 2 spaces from, I think, starting from here, going 1, 2, 3, 4, which is still only 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away from me, but it's 1, open 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I could still reach him from this side if he was here, so. So what if he went 1, 2, 3, 4 with that boost, and then 1, close 2. I could still go 1, 2, open 3, 4, and hit him. So yeah, based on the fact that I didn't draw the double attack, I think his only out was boosting with confirmed suspicion and closing this door and then moving back. So I'm attacking him with the Wily, which will deal 1 damage to him after combat. Because he cannot move, he doesn't have any after combat move effects. And if he blocks with anything other than I think the last deuce or a correct elementary guess, which, like, why would you guess 3 on an elementary when I still have 2 4s and a double attack left? It's very risky. He'd have to make a soul read on that one. And this goes to show that on a small map, it doesn't really even matter that Pat dies early because all of his cards turn into boost fodder, which is better on small maps than large maps. You can really tell how easy it is for me to hit my opponent this game than it was to hit them last game against Yananga on Marmoreal. Marmoreal is deceptively big, I think, whereas this map is maybe easily to see small. So he's going to defend with Counterpunch, which will not save him because mine is a 5 with the extra 2 damage from the ability, which will just kill him outright from the combat before any of the after combat effects go off. So what went well that game for me to win? Obviously him forgetting to maneuver did him in that one turn, but I still could have boosted and hit him with a 6 instead of an 8. Which would have put him at 4 right now. He's taking 3 from this, dealing 2 back to me. So, in theory, if he moved after that turn and I boosted with the double attack instead of using it and then hit with a skirmish, he would be at 1 right now, and I would be at 9. So, I think just the way his cards worked out, not having defense at the right time obviously hurt him, and that's how you have to play against Sherlock. You have to play really aggressively because he just outvalues you in the long game, and you have to wear down his defenses. I think maybe spending a lot of defenses on Watson might have been a mistake, but that, I guess it's kind of hard to tell because that was right at the beginning of the game, and him getting those educations off, I think, was actually the right play since card draw is a weakness of him, and if he was able to start the game with so many cards in hand, so many options, that was definitely the right play. Maybe killing Pat for me wasn't the right thing for him to do because he put that study methods into me, and I just didn't block. Me helming into the counterpunch also was probably very helpful because Pat was basically killed in 2 swift actions. The discards for me weren't even that bad. Losing a heal and a spear throw didn't really end up mattering a lot in this game, and usually the random discards from your ability can lead to a lot of volatility for Achilles, because if you discard a double attack or a skirmish, you feel really bad about that. So my opinions on Achilles after this match has definitely changed since I was just pretty tilted by that Yanenga game where I dealt 1 damage to her 5 separate times. So if you're following along with my tournament run, I don't know how much more Achilles you'll actually end up seeing from me during Winter of Champions, but might have to say goodbye to the scary, angry man for right now. But either way, that was a very close match, a roller coaster ride, if you will. The Sinbad and Achilles Sherlock's games were pretty decisive, but that Yanenga Achilles game was that scared me. I was very perturbed after that game, but hopefully you found my commentary helpful and entertaining and enjoyable. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next round. I think I'm playing Diddly Squatch because I'm recording this on Monday after the pairings have been announced. So stay tuned for that. I'll hopefully have that up probably by next weekend. And as always, like, subscribe, and yeet!